place in our town, filled with ghosts and mystery and delight. It is a strange labyrinth of such formidable complexity that even the bravest pilgrims sometimes seem lost and powerless as they pass this way. Here, the ghosts of the past lean down. Scholars and philosophers, scientists and seekers and scribes call from an endless maze of hollow corridors. Here is the accumulated learning of all the earth's pilgrims through time, the bookcase of mankind. Millions of volumes of words and ideas which comprise the knowledge of the ages. Here is the library, a place of ghosts and mystery which guards its secrets well. But it is also a realm of delight, this place. For if the pilgrim can find the keys to the corridors, there will open a world of unparalleled and wondrous adventure. There is a treasure hidden here in our town, and the clues to the treasure abound, if only the pilgrim has the will and the skill and the wisdom to find them.
I love it, Norm. But then again, I've always had a love affair with the library. What do you think, Cassie?
Well, it says what I feel. A library can be very intimidating, and the part about feeling lost in a maze, right on target.
Mm-hmm. So we can open our program with this piece?
Oh, yes, Norm. It's intriguing, and it communicates.
Where do we go from here?
Well, we have two basic jobs to do. The first has to do with attitude.
Establish the point that library research needn't be intimidating. It's a natural and necessary part of a college education.
Right. And the second job is in the area of process. The script must show our students how to use the library effectively.
Well, in a way, I think the two go together. See, if I knew how to use the library more effectively, then my attitude would change. I would feel more comfortable.
No, I think your opening reflects the concerns most students have when they go to the library and they're faced with a research project. So I think we should concentrate on laying those concerns to rest. Do you still have that interview on library research?
It's on the same tape right after the opening.
Oh, good. I think it stresses the value of the library.
I assign library research research materials to my students, a paper dealing with legal topics. I do this for two reasons. One, to introduce them to the substantive material having to do with legal research and get them into the books, understand exactly what a lawyer goes through in preparing his pleadings in court. And secondly, I do it for purposes of encouraging students to write and reason.
I like to assign library research papers because it gives the student introduction to the wonderful array of information available to them and the many different forms it takes. They learn to gather information from old newspapers, by doing a computer search, by using the indices, by finding magazines that give them current information, and then taking them back into the card catalog, because this is going to give them, the purpose of the paper.
The first thing the student has to do whenever they do a paper, of course, is to pick a topic. And students usually have a very difficult time doing this. They need to define their thought, refine their thought in such a way that they can find a topic that's manageable, a topic that they can actually do a short paper on that makes any sense. And so the actual process of defining the topic makes them realize, I think, that even the most apparently superficial or trivial topic is one of infinite complexity. And the process of finding the topic itself is a learning experience.
Well, I think it does. It's valuable as a research experience. That is, some of them someday may be getting into positions where they're going to have to go and look up information. And so if we can, in our undergraduate classes, get them used to going into the library, knowing how to start looking up material on a topic, I think it gives them invaluable experience.
That's it. So, what do you think?
Excellent. If college is a journey, sooner or later all roads lead through the library.
And a trip to the library can be an adventure in itself.
I think there's a problem.
I don't see any problem.
Well, you and Jenny are at home in the library. It's a tool of your trade. You know it like the back of your hand.
So?
So, we're talking to people who haven't had much experience with the library. Me included.
She's got a point.
Well, see, what I want is some help. some guidelines, some rules. You guys are the experts, so how about letting the rest of us in on your secrets?
Are you suggesting a guided tour?
Yeah, of the process.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Do a segment on a typical research assignment. Watch an expert search for the information from the beginning to the end, A to Z.
Interesting creative problem.
What if we tried an experiment? Assign Jenny a research project, send it to the library, and send along a camera crew to document her progress.
Might work. If it does, we can write the whole script around it.
One of the points I know we want to make is that a good researcher keeps a diary. Maybe my diary could be the narration for the tape. A detective story. Looking through the library for clues.
Well, we need a topic.
Well, you've already got this detective idea. How about unsolved murders?
Oh!
And my diary could be kind of like the detective's log. It was 5:03. I slipped into the social sciences department where I knew the Ripper lurked in the stacks.
The great unsolved murders of the age. Not bad.
Miss Lowry, you have your assignment.
If you care to accept it.
All I'm after are the facts, ma'am. This is going to be fun.
When you're looking for information in the library, you need a search strategy, an organized approach.
Okay, then give me the secret. What's the strategy?
I can't tell you.
You can't tell me.
Nope. You see, there is no one strategy. It's different from one project to another.
Oh, you're a great help, Norm.
But there are some basic guidelines you can use to develop a strategy that does apply to every project. And they're right here on this tape. I think it's queued up to the right spot.
You want to start off and do what we call working from the general to the specific. You want to take a big topic, use the resources of the library, and define it down so that you finally get a workable topic that can be used with the resources of this particular library. The second thing is to document your progress. If you'll write down where you found something, what you found in it, what's there, how to find it again, what you would need to use it on a bibliography so that you don't have to go back and forth to the same thing over again, you'll be better off. The third thing is to don't rush. Allow yourself plenty of time to do this research. You almost cannot rush research and do a good job of it. And the last thing would be to use the library staff to be one of your resources. The library staff are there because they know what this library has and how they can put the resources of the library at the disposal of the student. It seems to me that, particularly for the person who's doing research for the first time, part of what their problem is just the newness of the experience itself. They're undertaking a new task. They're doing research. They're doing it in a location that may not be familiar to them, a library. And the whole process may become overwhelming and confusing. If you use these guidelines and file them in the back of your mind, they can be just an outline that, if you follow them, will help you maneuver through this new territory, doing this new job. They can just act as something that you can hold on to as you undertake the task.
Okay, Norm. Let's see if I've got this right. A strategy is an organized approach to a specific research problem.
That usually changes from one project to another.
But every strategy should be based on these guidelines. Always work from general to specific.
Thoroughly document your progress.
Take your time and let the information itself narrow the topic.
One more.
Oh, the librarian.
There you go. Always consider the librarian a resource. Okay. Follow those 4 basic guidelines and you begin to take the mystery out of the library.
even if you're researching unsolved murders?
Follow the 4 basic guidelines, and there are very few problems you can't solve.
Now remember, this is just an experiment.
Excuses, excuses.
Do you have a title? Of course. The Case of the Great Unsolved Murders of the Age. What else? Okay, here goes. I arrived at the library at high noon. For a moment, I felt the old humbling insecurity. Somewhere within these buildings, among the books and stacks of periodicals, were my unsolved murders. But where? Then I remembered the thrill of the hunt, following leads, chasing down clues, and I felt strong again, and I began to apply my search strategy. I decided to start with a general encyclopedia, because the first guideline is to work from general to specific. Sometimes subject headings contain good bibliographies. I looked under criminology. Nothing. Great start. I looked under assassinations. Once again, not very promising. Something about assassins in the Balkans. Then I checked homicide. Again, nothing on unsolved murders. But that's par for the course. I wasn't discouraged. I'd been down blind alleys before. I looked under murder. Aha! Very promising. It was a gold mine. Under murder, I found the following books: Killers Unknown, Murders Most Strange, They Got Away with Murder, a case book on Jack the Ripper. The titles told the story. I was on the right track. I wrote down about 20 titles. A second important guideline I followed was to thoroughly document my progress, what I got and where I got it. This way, I only had to use an index once. Now, a key question. Would the library have these books in stock? There are a number of ways to find out, depending on the library. Some libraries have card catalogs, others have microfiche or microfilm catalogs, and others have their catalogs on computer. Sometimes I go directly to the card catalog for the answer, but this library, like most others, is converting to computer, and the card catalog contains no new listings since 1979. So today, I decided to use the computer for a quick scan of my subject heading. I punched in unsolved murders. Nothing. Too narrow. I entered murder. About half my titles were there. I jotted down the catalog numbers of the available titles, and I crossed the others from my notes. I decided to seek further detailed information on the books. I punched in the titles and checked the brief description of the book's contents. I was careful to make complete notes of publisher and author and date of publication. Later on, if I used the references in my paper, I might need the information for footnotes. The computer showed that some of my titles were false leads. I rejected the book, They Got Away with Murder. It dealt with flaws in the judicial system, not unsolved murders. Now I had 14 good, solid leads, books on subjects which seemed to be relevant to my topic. Now it was time to examine the books themselves. And here's where guideline number 3 really helped me out. Don't hurry. Good research can't be rushed. Little by little, the information I find will lead me to my ultimate topic. Research is a continuing process of evaluation. I browsed the books I had chosen. Several were disappointing. I rejected vintage Victorian murders. Most had been solved. I rejected another because it was obvious sensationalism. Another was too scholarly. I made careful notes about the possible value of the remaining books. When I later narrowed my topic, I could return for them. I went back to the shelf and looked at the books adjacent to the ones I had selected. Since books are classified by subject matter, browsing the shelves often turns up unexpected surprises, planned serendipity. So now I had access to a good body of information about unsolved murders. A good start. But I had resolved not to be satisfied with the first good information I found. I'd dig further. I began to feel I was closing in on my quarry. I moved to the Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature, a great index to all the magazine articles written on a given subject during a given period of time. There was no heading for unsolved murders. I picked a recent year and looked under murder. Looked like there might be some good stuff here. I examined the articles and jotted down a few titles. But I only checked the more recent articles. Maybe later, when I'd narrowed my topic, I'd return to the Reader's Guide with specific names and dates. But for now, there was someone I wanted to see.
I had a hunch. This person just might have some inside information that would break this case wide open.
Is that it?
Well, of course not. The plot is just beginning to thicken. Who is this mysterious person you're going to see? The reference librarian. Every good detective needs an informant, and no one is more informed about the library than the reference librarian. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm always a little embarrassed about bothering the librarian, afraid of imposing.
Oh, but that's why there's one on staff to help. But you need to be specific about the help you need. Ask for specific references relevant to your topic.
Mm-hmm. Chances are the librarian knows about references you might never be able to find. You know, I think now would be a good time to see part 3 of your tape. Would you mind, Jenny?
Okay, here it is.
You show a librarian that you're willing to be a partner in this if you know a little bit about what you're talking about before you approach the librarian. It seems to me like it's not a bad idea to do a run through the place and see what kinds of things you can pick up by yourself first. Don't just show up at the desk, shove your assignment across to the librarian and say, I need a 40-page paper tomorrow on this subject. But I have looked it over and have some idea of what's here already, so that the librarian feels like you're asking them to refine your topic and to help you with special things, but not to do it for them. Now, librarians are not going to sit there and write the paper for you, but they are paid to help you. And most of the time it's a people profession, and they do like to help people. So if you use the librarian wisely, they can be a great help to you. For instance, one thing the librarian is probably going to know that you won't know is what special things might be in this library that would help you with your topic. The next thing that they might know that you might not know is how to use the resources in this library to their greatest advantage. If you need some help in using an index, for instance, the librarian can help you possibly more quickly than you can stumble through and master it on your own. And that's what they're paid to do, is to help you. There's a line, and you just have to find it between letting them do all the work and letting the librarian help you.
I always thought of working with a librarian as just plain good technique, you know, guideline number 4. But in the case of the Unsolved Murders Project, the reference librarian was really a godsend. You might call it a lucky break, but it was a break I wouldn't have had otherwise. Here, let me show you what I mean. I had talked with the librarian about my progress. She pointed me to what turned out to be a major break. A small volume of obscure, unrelated facts. It was there, Laughlin's Fact Finder. And there in the table of contents was my topic, Noted Unsolved Murders. A simple list of names. No details, no dates. Albert Anastasia, Jan Masaryk, Sir Harry Oakes, Valerie Percy, and more. All were famous, and most had lived in my lifetime. Here was a whole new dimension to my research. The books I'd found were about old murders, but here were unsolved murders where the killers were still alive. I decided to follow up the new leads. But first I needed the date that each person had died. The librarian also showed me the New York Times obituary index. Here I found them listed, one by one, along with the date the murder was committed. Now I had 2 jobs to do. Since I had the date of the murders, something tangible to go on, I returned to the Reader's Guide. I looked up each name in the index for the appropriate year, and sure enough, July 26, 1959, the murder of Albert Anastasia. 5 stories in all. Same for the others. It was another gold mine of information. I made notes of the title of the article, the date, and page number of the magazine it was in. With the help of the librarian, I discovered the issues I needed were available in the library. I made notes on the kinds of information the articles contained, so I could decide later whether or not to explore them further. The Reader's Guide is an index to popular magazines. But what about scholarly journals? I remembered a special index that might be helpful, the Social Sciences Index. It was worth a try, but in this case, not too helpful. If I'd been leaning toward criminology, I might have searched it further. But my research was leading in another direction. I had one other lead to follow: the actual newspaper articles which appeared at the time of the murder. I went to the New York Times Index. Since I knew the dates of each murder, it was an easy matter to find the stories which reported the crime. In some libraries, this index is on a computer database. Although there's sometimes a fee, this database can save you a lot of time. But then it came to me, an idea. Obviously, when the story of each murder appeared, it was not an unsolved murder. It only became unsolved with time. So the real target of my research was the follow-up stories, not the stories which appeared in the newspaper the day of the crime. I searched forward through the Times, and little by little I could see murder stories becoming unsolved murder stories. As I worked, I realized my topic was narrowing itself. My initial research was almost done.
You know what I think?
Rarely.
I think you let this project go to your head. You're not researching murders, you're trying to solve them.
Well, it certainly is a temptation.
You ended with the idea of narrowing your subject. Are you suggesting that this comes at the end of the process?
Oh, not necessarily. I think it depends on the information you get. In this case, if I'd narrowed my subject too soon, I would have missed out on some fascinating stuff.
Oh, now be honest, Jenny. You've spent half your life in the library. You can't tell me you still follow guidelines like a beginner.
I most certainly do. When I first entered the library, what was the first thing I did?
You went to the encyclopedias.
And found bibliography.
I was simply following guideline number 1.
Working from general to specific.
Mm-hmm. And what did I do next?
You went to the library's catalog.
But first you began her documentation. Guideline number 2?
The diary.
Yes. I kept notes of every step in the process, and that way I'd never have to go over the same ground again.
And if she ran into a dead end, she can go back over her notes and see where she went off track.
And that leads us to guideline number 3, the time factor.
Right. Many students wait until the last minute to do their library research, but you have to give yourself enough time. You can't hurry the process.
Yes, if you're in too much of a hurry, you may be tempted to accept the first piece of information you find.
No self-respecting detective arrests his first suspect. He keeps digging for clues.
And each clue leads to another. Each clue narrows the search.
Guideline number 4?
The librarian.
Sure, I know the library, Cassie. But it wasn't until I talked to the reference librarian that I really got moving.
So where does it all lead?
Oh, well, this is where it really gets exciting. I narrowed my topic to cold-blooded killers who could still be out there somewhere, planning to murder again. Well, that would be my focus.
This gives me the chills.
Well, I think it's excellent, Jenny. For me, I'm going to go home and relax with a really good murder mystery.
Well, it is getting pretty late.
Time to go out into the cruel world where all those murderers are lurking about.
Say, Norm, could you do me a favor? Just a little one.
Could be possible.
Well, it's getting kind of dark outside. Do you think that you could walk me to my car?